Good morning, class. So before we start to our class for this morning, let's have our prayer first. Thank you. You may now take your seats. So again, good morning. And before we are going to tackle about our discussion for this morning, let's have our recap first. And so, we have tackled about the environment last week, the environmental pollution, where you have been know what are the pollutions that has been existing here in our community, such as the air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, and other types of pollution where it totally affects the community and of course the people. Okay, so at this topic, we have now going to discuss about the environmental awareness. So before we have moved on to the final discussion, I have here a video clip for you to know what are the backgrounds of what we are going to discuss for this evening or morning about the environmental. That's it. That's the video and I hope you gain and you learn something. And moving on to our session outcomes. So by the end of our lesson, you as a learners will be introduced to the principles of the environmental awareness. The second is to understand the meaning of some common terminologies. Have an awareness on the impact of environmental change, and have an awareness of resource efficiency, and of course, to identify practical ways to reduce environmental impacts. So, what do we mean by environmental awareness? So, these highlight environmentally and friendly working practices relating to, we have four. We have the waste, the energy, the transport, and the water issues. So let's have the first one. We have our climate change. So climate change is a significant and lasting change weather patterns over the long period. So this climate change has been popularized now, where we Filipinos and all over around the world are experiencing this climate change. The next one is our ecological footprint, where our ecological footprint is a measure of human demand on the Earth's resources, amount of natural resources required to sustain our consumption and deal with our waste. Always remember that the bigger the resources we use in our environment, the more we participate, or the more footprints we are contributing on the earth. So the next one, we have our carbon management. It is the process of managing an individual or organization's emissions of greenhouse gases, or the CO2 reduction. Next, our sustainable development. Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So we have three standards of the sustainability. We have the economic, we have the social, and we have the environmental, where these three standards of the sustainability are interconnected with each other, as shown as the Venn diagram beside the PowerPoint presentation, wherein the environmental strands of sustainability defines as the viable natural environment. The social is the nurturing the community, and the economic sufficient economy. So these three strands of sustainability are interconnected with each other. So next, we have the impacts of the environmental change. So the key features of an ecological footprint. We have the average footprint, we have the developed world resource use, the developing world resource use, the need for food, transport, energy use, agriculture, and deforestation. We have also the population growth, the speed in which it takes to regenerate what we use in a year. So other impacts of environmental change, we have the key features of the science of climate change, the global temperature rise, the natural reasons, the man-made reasons, the CO2 and the greenhouse gases, the reduced ice caps, sea temperatures, and release of greenhouse gases. So, CO2 emissions latest stats, hindi ko alam kung where these rates come from, but I get this from the internet. So between 1990 to 2009, 20% higher. While on the other hand, it was increased by 35% between 1995 to 2000, and has been decreased by 9% during 2000 to 2008 to 2009. With that, the carbon footprint increased by 12 over period. So CO2 emissions, we have the agriculture, we have the fluorinated gases, we have the waste industry, the transport, and the household. So what are the impacts of the environmental change? So major impacts are from global warming, the sea level rise, the ocean acidification, the health, the temperature rise, of course, the extreme weather, deforestation, and the ecosystems chain loss of biodiversity. So let's now move on. What is global warming? So the main cause of the global warming is the emissions of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Human activity over the past 250 years, including the burning of fossil fuels, change of land use, and agriculture, has increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. As these gases build up in the atmosphere, they strengthen what is known as greenhouse effect. So, global warming. There has been a clear decreasing trend in Arctic summer sea ice levels since the records began in 1979. The sea level around the UK rose by 10 cm during the 20th century. The Earth's surface has warmed by 0.4 cm on average since the 1970s and 1 cm in the last 100 years. In 160 years of records, the hottest years have been since 1997 up to present. So where we are commonly use those resources, we have two. We have the renewable and the non-renewable. Let's move on to the renewable. Can be replenished through biological or natural processes. So examples of these are the solar, the wind, the tides, the hydropowers, the biomass that includes the plants, trees, and etc. when harvested sustainability, and of course our foodstuffs. But on the other hand, the commonly used resources are non-renewable. These resources cannot be grown or replenished in the same rate as it consumes, such as the fossil fuels, the coal, gas, and of course the oil, radioactive fuels, and the metals. So we have our 3 R's, or the reduce, reuse, and recycle. In order to minimize the impact of waste production of the environment, there are actions that we can take by reducing what we use, reusing products, and recycling waste. So that ends our topic for this short period of time for this morning. And I want you guys to bring a 1/4 sheet of paper for your 10-item quiz. And for your assignment, search about the environmental disasters on the Philippines. And that ends our class for this morning. Again, good morning everybody and goodbye.